Hey, it's Kevin DeWitch here, and welcome to another plugin knowledge session. In this session, we're going to continue on with the PSP InfiniStrip plugin and have a look at the EQ modules. So firstly, if you are new to my channel and new to my videos and you like what you see, please click the thumbs up, subscribe to the channel, click the notification bell to be notified of all my future videos. So the EQ modules in the PSP InfiniStrip. Again, we've got a few options here, a few that you may recognize from traditional vintage style hardware and some that are just PSP exclusives here. Now, this is probably one that, again, similar to compressors, is something that most people are going to be excited about because compression and EQ is something that most people love doing when they're mixing. It's obviously a vital task in mixing. So definitely something that you will be interested in checking out. So let's just get into it and check it out. All right, we're back in Cubase, and here we have again our PSP InfiniStrip loaded. I've got it on a stereo track for an entire song, and we're going to have a look at the EQ module. Okay, so the EQ module comes with 3 EQs. We have the channel Q, the precursor, and the retro Q. Right, so let's go from the top. So the channel Q, we'll go through the descriptions in the manual, is a 4-band flexible EQ capable of drastic boosting and cutting. Its suggested applications is use this basic and universal equalizer on both individual tracks or groups. Okay, very nice. We have the precursor, which is based on the PSP precursor, so their individual plugin, but completely redesigned for the PSP InfiniStrip. No shelving filters, but 3 types of bell curve shapes. Okay. Suggested applications use on acoustic instruments. And then we have the retro, which is based on a classic old school EQ that were loud and proud. Suggested applications use on group tracks to add shimmer and depth by using high and low bands, add power by increasing the middle band, or tuck backing vocals further back in the mix by cutting the low, middle, and low band. So if we go back up, I'm just having a look. The settings are all pretty similar. No, they do change. They're similar, okay, but they do have some variances in here. So let's start with the channel Q one first. Okay, so we've got buttons on the side here to activate each of the bands. All right, so low, low mid, and high. We then have buttons on the side to determine the type. So if we turn those off, you can see which buttons are allowed. So we have a soft shelf. All right, so that's obviously got a sort of a wider Q type arrangement there. Then we have a steep shelf and we have a bell. So the dial itself has 2 rings. We have the outer ring sets our frequency and the inner ring sets our gain, whether it's down, like cutting, or boosting. And we can double click to get it back to normal. So obviously the knob controls work the same in every single one. They just have a different frequency range. So we've got 1.4K to 28K, 0.5K to 10K, 100 Hertz to 2K, 20 Hertz to 400 Hertz. And as I said, the controls work identically on each of these. All right, so when we get to our high mids here, we have several options here. We have a soft Q, which is probably this one here. We have a medium Q, and then we have a steep Q. So instead of having a actual Q control, we just have 3 predefined shapes of our bell or parametric, whatever you want to call it here. Okay, and that I would assume is identical to the low mid, just a different frequency range. But again, We've got a soft, medium, and a steep. And then on our low, we have similar to the high, except on the opposite side. On the low, we have a soft Q shelf here. We have a steep one, and then we have, again, a bell-shaped function. Okay, we have a little gain control here so that we can gain match our plugin. So if we start doing lots of boosts or cut, we might want to adjust this to keep it level so that when we mute and unmute, it stays at the same level there. And we also have an analog control, which is basically to engages the post EQ analog saturation emulation. So it's adding some analog saturation after the EQ. Now, based on my previous experience with some of their EQs, the harder the EQ settings you do, especially boosting, well, mainly boosting, if you do massive boosts, I'm pretty sure on the other plugins, and it'll probably be the same here, you'll get more distortion. Subtle changes or cuts won't. It'll just keep it fairly natural. But yeah, we'll test that in a minute. But I'm pretty sure that's the way it works. Okay, what's the difference if we go to the next module? All right, so with the next module, we've got the same. We've got some buttons here to turn on or off. We've got our analog. We've got a gain control. Here we have changed the layout a little bit. Okay, so here we have a slide control, which actually has 3 indents. Okay. So I'm guessing it's actually the same. So it's soft, sort of a wide Q, soft Q, a steep, and a middle. Because it has 3 indents there. Now, is that the same on each of them? Yes, it is. Okay, so basically you have the three same settings. They just look different because it's got a slider. So it's a visual change. And what else has changed? Okay, so I think it's pretty much identical. It's just visually changed. Okay, so our little buttons here on the side are now these little sliders. And our inner and outer ring of the knob control here is now this slider on the side, which is changing our frequency, and this, which is our gain control. So it has exactly the same settings, just visually looks different. And then if we go down to our bottom one, I'm going to say it's exactly the same again, but it visually changed. Now we have changed our Q settings to a toggle switch to flick between the 3. We have our frequency range control here, and we have our boost and cut and boost values here. So yes, I thought they were going to be different, but they're not. They are actually identical, which is good in a way because it allows us to flick between them and see the difference. Right, so we could just go through and, look, I could play the song here, turn it on. We could boost and move frequencies around. All right, try a different shelf. Do a top end boost, say 10K. Okay, which is all great, right? It works as an EQ does. So if you've used an EQ before, then nothing's going to surprise you with this. It really isn't. And I don't expect it to. So instead of me just fiddling around with knobs here, which is really going to be pretty pointless, what I'm more curious in is what does the analog do? And how do they sound differently? Now, usually the best approach to find that is I find that a lot of these have a different top end or a different low end, that sort of thing, right? They'll have different qualities in other spots as well. And we'll do a couple of comparisons, but that's where I'm really intrigued to hear this. I want to hear the flicking through. Now, what I want to know first off is, can I notice a difference with this analog button? I don't know if I'm tricking myself, but there's something that does happen now. And again, it may be psychosomatic or whatever the word is, because you want to hear something that you think you do. It is extremely subtle if there is something there. What the other example I wanted to do is just say, okay, now if I turn on... So I do a huge boost there. So I'm just trying an example here. That's really weird. It's like I broke the plugin. You can actually see there, it's doing a bit of compression, the analog here, because you can see it peaks up. If I activate it, it actually controls it. So it's doing a bit of actual compression there with some, I'm guessing with some distortion analog characteristics. So again, it's very subtle. I thought I would hear a massive difference if I boosted it and, you would get some crunchy distortion, but it's defeating me. It's trying not to do it, I think, because it doesn't like what I'm trying to do to it. But anyway, let's get everything back to normal because that was just ridiculous. What I like to hear is some top end, right? I always like to compare some top end values here. So I'm going to add a shelf, right? So let's go with a 10K. So you just want to sweeten this up a bit. Maybe, actually, let's try 28. Right, that's nothing. pull out a bit more than we should. And now we'll flick through. Now that's interesting. To be honest with you, I'm not hearing as much difference as I was expecting. I generally hear quite a big difference when it comes to the top end quality of an EQ, but these all sound pretty much the same. There's a slight difference, especially when it comes to the middle one, the precursor. But I was expecting a bit more out of this one. Instead of the highs, let's try the same thing with the lows. Let's go for... difference with that one. Okay, so a bit of a difference on the actual low end there. Now, what if we pick something else? Let's go with a bit of a low mid. It's weird because when I first did it, I heard a massive difference. And then as I flick through it more and more, I stop hearing the difference. And I'm not sure why that is. That's really weird. I don't know if it's just my ears go adjusted or something. Well, let's try something up here. I'm not going to... Sorry, I'm doing the wrong control here. Let's go with about a 1K. I don't want to hurt my ears too much. See, I can hear a big difference there. This one sounds a lot more boxy. what I feel with the analog is it's almost like it just, I guess I hate using this word, but let's just call it glue. It sounds like it glues it together a bit better. It sort of tucks everything in. It's like it's doing a little bit of compression and bringing everything in a bit tighter and gelling it together a little bit. Very subtly, but it seems to be doing it. All right. So I hear a bit more of a difference when it comes to this frequency range than I did with the other ones. But I think if you listen closely and kept doing it over and over again, I think you would hear the differences a lot more. The thing is, I'm doing pretty extreme stuff there. I mean, I would never do that. I mean, that just sounds ridiculous. But the good thing is there's obviously a different flavor for what you want to do, right? And they actually do have a different sound. So, that's good. You can't complain about that. And again, just like everything else, you could use multiple EQs. So for instance, let's load up a couple more. All right, so you might like different things. So let's say we'll put this one at the start, and I don't know, we'll put that one there, okay? So can we reset everything? Just turn everything off here. Turn it all off. Oh, we'll leave the analog on. So let's say we have the analog on, or you could even say, okay, I'm not going to have the analog on the first one. What I'm going to do here is I'm going to do, I don't know, let's say, I'll listen for a frequency I don't like or something, right? Let's say it's a bit boxy there. So I'm going to do a bit of a cut there. Say there's a bit too much 4K. Do a bit of a cut there. I'll boost that a little bit. Okay, so for instance here, let's say I want to use this very clean channel Q here with no analog here to do a little bit of corrective EQ, right? I'm going to do cuts, a couple of cuts, and just get things, the way I like, right? You might even say, okay, maybe there's a bit too much low-end rumble on this. I mean, I'd probably use a filter if I was going to do this. But let's just say I want to get rid of anything below. Let's go down to about 40, 45, okay? But I'm going to do a shelf. And I'll do a steep shelf. We'll do a bit of a cut there, so let's have a listen. All right, I just want to clean up that low end. That's pretty high, isn't it? Okay, that's a bit extreme. All right, so this is what we've done. Okay, so now what you might do is you might say, okay, I want to add a bit of low end. Which one of these do I think has the best sounding low end, right? So we've gotten rid of, say, the very low rumble, but we want to add some more of the meat in. Oh, there's a difference I didn't notice. This does not have a shelf at all. It is all peaks, all parametric, bell, whatever you want to call it. Okay, I didn't notice that before. So there you go, there's a difference. now let's try the low end on this one. All right, so put that. So let's say, for instance, in this case here, I like the low end that this is giving me. All right, that's pretty extreme values there, but let's just... All right, and let's say I want to add a bit of top end, but I want to try, I'm going to do the top end on this one here. So we're going to use 3 EQs to do different things. Corrective, bit of top end, bit of low end. Again, this is not a shelf though, which may not benefit this one. Well, let's see what we get on this one. Okay, we'll go with that. All right, let's just go with that for the sake of it because I pulled up 3 EQs. Let's use 3 EQs. And we may want the analog on both of these just for the sake of it. So we can bypass the whole thing. So we could use this to our advantage to get the best of everything. If we prefer one sound of one EQ, we can pull it up. We prefer the other one, pull it up. Whatever you want to do, entirely up to you. Right? In this case here, you might lose this one because we haven't done a great deal with the precursor. So you might do your cuts in here as well. Entirely up to you. Right? So you've got some flexibility there that what you could do to get the sound that you want out of this. So there you go. There is the EQ module in the PSP InfiniStrip plugin. Let me know what you think of the EQs in the comments below. If you have any questions, again, let me know in the comments. I'll try and help where I can. Interested to hear if you have any opinions of further EQs that you would like to see added, vintage style ones, any other fancy style ones, just any types you like. I'd just be interested to hear what they are. And are you thinking that they will add some in the future? That's another curious fact that I have. Will they keep developing this plugin and adding modules as time goes by? Again, similar to the compressor, I'd be interested to find out from yourself, do you like the fact that you can switch between the modules and retain the settings exactly the same? Or do you prefer the option to have them more traditionally based to suit the actual hardware? More truly, so more of a real emulation as opposed to a emulation with a twist, sort of thing to keep the consistency. Or would you like that option to be selectable, switch between authentic emulation as opposed to emulation you can switch between that have the same settings? Now, if you do like the video, please click the thumbs up, subscribe to the channel, click the notification bell to be notified of all my future videos. Hopefully the video has been helpful. I thank you for watching, and I will catch you in the next one.